All right, y'all, what's up? Today we're going to be talking about how to optimize your fuel efficiency driving your new Kia Sportage Hybrid, either a 2023 or even a 2024. It's going to be using the same system. So today we're going to talk about some tips and tricks that I abide by when I'm trying to maximize my fuel efficiency in this car. You can definitely get well over 40 miles to the gallon in certain situations, and you can stay in the 30s in other situations, but there are some things you need to keep in mind, so let's go ahead and get into that. So the first thing that I really want to talk about is what you do as soon as you get in the car. Right now it's summer, but in the wintertime, that's where I want to start, because that's where you're going to hurt yourself the most, I think, when it comes to fuel efficiency. Number one, the batteries don't run as efficiently as they do in the warmer months. And number two, you're going to be tempted to hit that heater button. And so I'm going to tell you, as soon as you get in the car, resist the temptation to turn on the heat and instead use your seat warmers. What that's going to allow the car to do is switch back and forth between the combustion engine and the electric system. And then when you're doing that, the car is still going to warm up. You still will eventually get heat, but if you come on right off the bat and then you're turning the heat on, you're not going to allow the car to switch over to the electric system at all. It's going to focus on getting that engine hot so that's pumping hot air into the cabin, and that's going to affect your fuel efficiency. If you're not allowing it to switch to the electric mode early on in your trip, that's obviously going to affect your numbers. Now, the same is true when we're talking about the heat of the day in the summertime. If you have it maxed out at the lowest temperature, the fan is on the highest, the car might actually have to switch over to the engine in order to supply enough power to the air conditioning. So you don't want to run the air conditioning full blast right off the bat, especially when the car hasn't had a chance to do its thing. But I will say that the car is less apt to switch to the combustion engine running air conditioning than it is for heating. Obviously, the engine produces heat. The engine does not produce cooling or coolant for us, so we get a little bit of flexibility there. You can definitely run the air conditioning a lot without forcing the car to switch over to the combustion side to power things, but I have noticed that time, let's say it's like a 9500 degree day and I blast the AC on the lowest temperature, it is going to rely on the engine a little bit more and switch over, especially while driving, so that I can provide enough power to the air conditioning system. Another thing we want to keep in mind as soon as we get into the car is we just want to make sure that the car is on eco mode. I've had some people comment and say they like it on smart mode and the car learns and everything, but I want to force the car to be as efficient as possible. I don't want to give it the option to switch into sport mode because it thinks I need the extra power. If I'm driving for fuel efficiency, that's how I want to keep it. I want to keep it on eco, and I do not want to change it at all from there. All right, so now that we've talked about things that really affect the car's ability to be in the electric mode, let's go ahead and talk about driving style, because that is also going to affect the car staying in electric mode or being able to switch over to it. So the first thing, as you may have noticed right there, is a nice slow acceleration. There are a lot of times where this car does just fine accelerating in electric mode only from a dead stop all the way up to 40-50 miles an hour, especially if you're doing it at the right rate. So if your rate of acceleration is really high, the car's not going to use the electric system for that. It's going to switch to the engine. But if you keep it slow to moderate, then we're really going to be able to utilize the electric system a lot more. Accelerating from a dead stop is where I think a lot of people are losing fuel efficiency, because they're not giving the car a chance to actually create that acceleration in electric mode. Instead, they're pushing down on the gas pedal, they're going a little too fast, and they are requiring the engine to do a lot of the work. So right there, I didn't accelerate from a dead stop, but I completed a turn and then I slowly accelerated into it. So you can see right now that my RPMs are still at 0. I am still using the electric system. I haven't required that extra power. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You just don't want to create the requirement for that internal combustion engine to kick in and take over. Now, sometimes it's going to happen because the battery gets low. So let's go ahead and talk about charging now that we're on the topic of a low battery. I'm about there. I'm gonna have to charge this up, and there is a braking technique that I think you should be following in order to maximize your charging when you're coming to stops. So up around this corner, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have a red light. So what I wanna do is I wanna start my braking fairly early, all the way back here, but I don't wanna brake down too hard. I wanna gradually slow down as I approach the red light, all the way up to a full stop. Now here, I'm not gonna have the opportunity to do that, but if you look at the little gauge on your dashboard, as you are braking, it's going to tell you how much you're actually charging. And so what's gonna happen, the harder you press down the brake pedal, the more it's gonna charge. But the thing is, if you are pressed down all the way, you're gonna stop more quickly and you're not giving the car a whole lot of time to do the actual charging. I wanna have a long, slow, gradual stop so that I can maximize the time that I'm actually charging the battery. And of course, now that I'm trying to find a red light so I can show you guys how to brake, everything's green, or if it is red, I'm already going too slow to really show you the long, gradual brake job. Okay, here we go. We got a nice orange light. This is where I wanna keep things. And I want to do it for as long as possible. I want to keep braking. You notice that the gauge is going to slide to the right the closer I get to the stop, and that's okay, but we want to make sure that we have a long, slow, smooth stop, just like that. Now, I do need to point out that as you're charging in a city environment, these kind of stops are not going to charge the battery very quickly. But the good news is that the car doesn't actually use as much battery when you're driving in this type of environment anyway. So once we get over to about the 50% mark in terms of our charge, then we can really try to manipulate the system in order to change to the electric mode as frequently as possible. So I'll do that here after this acceleration. So I may not have enough charge right now to get a decent rate of acceleration. That's fine, I'm gonna use the gas. But as I get to speed, let's say the speed limit's 45 here, right? Once I get up to the speed limit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to back off the gas pedal a little bit, and then I'm going to allow the car to switch into the electric mode, and then that's where we're gonna cruise. So right now we are 0.0 RPMs, which means that we are in the electric mode, and that is where we wanna live as much as possible. So once we're here, we can let our foot off the gas pedal if we want to. We can reapply it to accelerate. Again, just be careful when it comes to your rate of acceleration. We wanna allow it to stay in electric mode. If we push down a little too hard, a little too fast, it's gonna switch us over to gas. So if you look at the dash, you're gonna see that our numbers are climbing right now. That's because I've been in the electric system from that last acceleration all the way at that stoplight. And right now, I think we're at 47 miles to the gallon. We've gone about 10 miles. We're getting down to where the battery is probably gonna run out of charge and it's gonna switch back over to the gas engine. Another thing you can do in order to charge the system when you're not braking is just to let your foot off the gas pedal. You'll notice that if you look at the dash, the little icon is gonna slide left and you are charging a little bit. So if you're going fast, if you're going slow, and this is the best way to charge the system if you're doing driving that's at a little bit higher rate of speed. So what I mean by that is, let's say we're going 65, 70 miles an hour on a highway. The more we let off the gas pedal, the more that battery is going to charge. So if you're one of those people who wants to have your foot constantly on the gas pedal, I'm gonna advise you not to do that, because the more you switch between on and off, the more the system is gonna charge. Just since that last stop, we're actually up to over 50% charge in the car again, and I really didn't do much other than brake a little bit and then let off the gas pedal. So that shows you how important just a few small steps are when it comes to getting that battery charged up so that you can use the electric system as much as possible. Another long, slow, gradual stop. And our battery charge is still over 50%. Right now we're almost at 48 miles to the gallon after 11 miles. So not bad numbers. And notice I am accelerating with the gas engine. That's okay. Obviously, you're not always going to be able to accelerate with the electric system. You want to as much as possible, but it's not going to hurt your numbers that bad to get up and on it a little quicker and then allow the car to switch over to electric, which is what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to let my foot off the gas pedal. You can see we dropped down to 0 RPMs. We are now on the electric side, and here we're just going to cruise. We're going about 54 miles an hour. It's a 45 speed limit. Forgive me, right? But this is where we want to live. We just want to keep cruising as smoothly as possible. No big jumps in speed, no immediate braking. That's the way. All right, light just turned green. I'm going to accelerate really slowly. No, you see, sometimes depending on like the elevation, if you're going uphill or something, the car's just not going to allow you to accelerate in electric mode, and that's okay. Like I said, we're just going to keep our driving style as what I've mentioned, and we are going to maximize our fuel efficiency when we can. All right, we are merging onto the interstate right now, so we're going to get up to speed, go a little faster. At this point, we're not really worried about the electric system. We just want to safely get onto the interstate. And then once we're there and we get up to the speed that we want to be at, then I will tell you guys what to do. So let's go ahead and focus on doing that. So as I've said in previous videos, this car really does shine in places where there's going to be a little bit of traffic, where you're not maintaining the same exact speed for miles and miles and miles at a time. Because what that does, and I've already talked about this in this video, is it forces you to take your foot off the gas pedal. And like I said, that's a big factor in determining how much your battery is charging and how often you're able to use the electric system. I'm going to get up to about 80 miles an hour. Again, we don't want to go much over that 2.3 or 2300 RPM, so we're up to 80 at 2.3, just got over to 2.4. Now that I'm up to speed, I want to let off that gas pedal, and I'm going to allow the car to switch. Now I'm going to need to brake a little bit here, and that also helps switch it over really quickly. I'm still going over 70, and I can leave it here, and I can continue to maintain that rate of speed if I want to. Now, of course, I'm not going to be able to do that because I've got people slowing down in front of me, which allows me to charge the battery. So one way to kind of reframe your mindset when it comes to driving is, when traffic slows down and you're more frustrated about not getting to your destination sooner, it's going to take you a little while. Well, you can rest assured that this car is getting the best gas mileage possible. So speed limit's 70 here. The de facto speed limit's really about 80. So we're going to get up going 75-ish, a little over that, and then I'm going to let my foot off the gas pedal. I'm going to allow the car to go back into the electric system right there, and then I'm going to cruise at about 75, 76. That's where I want to be personally, of course. So the battery right now is really not charged enough to continue to use it for a long period of time, so we're going to need to wait until the battery charges up. I like to go at least 75% while I'm on the interstate before I really worry about trying to manipulate my driving and letting off my foot and then cruising in the electric zone. So as you may have already noticed, the car does charge itself up without braking and without really taking your foot off the gas pedal too much. Again, if we want to facilitate that, the more we take our foot off, the better, but that's not always an option. So we're going to continue driving, letting the battery charge up on its own. Once we hit that 75% mark, then I'm going to get up a little bit above speed, and then I'm going to let off my foot, and then I'm going to allow the electric system to keep in. Then I'm going to resume pressing on the gas pedal, and then we are saving money. So one thing that people may not know about hybrids is that you can still use the electric system at higher speeds. So right now I'm going 77, and I can go over 80 and allow the car to fall into electric mode, and it'll stay there. Now, obviously it's going to use more power more quickly when you do that, but it is possible to drive at high speeds in the electric mode, as I'm doing right now. So soon the car is going to switch back over to the engine because I'm almost out of battery charge. And then from here, it's just rinse and repeat. So what you want to do is just continue the cycle over and over as many times as you can over the course of the trip in order to better your fuel efficiency. If you're someone who likes to use the cruise control, that's still okay. There are a few things we can do in order to maximize fuel efficiency while we're doing that. I will say that in my experience, using the cruise control more kind of hurts the fuel efficiency. But like I said, there are a few things we can do to try to maximize it as much as possible. We're going to talk about that right up here after I turn around. All right, we are getting back on the interstate, getting up to speed. I lost my foot camera, I'm out of battery, so I'm sorry about that, but it's gonna be about the same process that we've used before, just with cruise control on. So let's say I wanna go 78, right? Notice that I am locked in cruise control. The RPM's at 2.2, 2200, so I am not in the electric mode, but I do have a 3/4 charge, which means that I am good to switch over to the electric mode and use it for as long as possible. All right, so I'm getting up to speed here. Slow back down. I want to cruise at 75. Hit the button at 75. All right, so right away it dropped me down because I accelerated and then I hit the button as I was going at a slower speed. So I went up to 78, 79, and then I want to cruise at 75. That's going to allow the car to switch into the electric mode. Now that I'm cruising at 76 and I'm using the internal combustion engine, but I wanted to switch over to the electric system, what I can do now that I've got a 3/4 charge is I can accelerate and then let off the gas pedal and then leave cruise control intact or on, so that when the car does switch over to electric mode, I'll be cruising at 76. So let's go ahead and try it and see if it works. Now, as you may have noticed, it actually did not work, and that is going to be the case sometimes. There are factors like wind direction that can really affect how the car switches to electric and when it does, or if it does. So right now we've actually got wind out of the north, so I'm thinking that with me going straight north, the car's facing a little more wind resistance and it's not wanting to switch over to the electric system as easily as other scenarios. All right, so I'm going to speed up. Then I'm going to let off the gas pedal. I'm going to try to force it to go over to the electric side, and it did. So when you're using cruise control, that's the strategy you want to use when you're going uphill, when you're facing wind. It's probably not going to work for you, and that's why I tend to stay away from cruise control. But it is possible for the car to switch over on its own. You don't have to do it. It's just going to do it less frequently. And if you have some strategies in mind to get it to switch over, you're also going to be maximizing your fuel efficiency that way on the interstate. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you found these tips helpful. For the most part, the strategies are fairly simple. You just have to be willing to change your driving style. I've had some people commenting, complaining how they don't want to do that. It's the end of the world. But really, when it comes down to using less gas, I mean, why not? Why not? Okay, anyway, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Appreciate it. Use my Amazon links. Appreciate that. Appreciate you watching. See you next time.